Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Big Screen Show. My name is Victor,
I'm Jorge.
I'm Alex.
and we are back with our Loki Season 2, Episode 2 review. Great episode, right? I enjoyed it personally. Uh, Jorge has a hot take on that, but I thought it was a good episode. I was excited to see Salvi, right? She's back. Meaning back in like actually seeing her because we only saw her right at the end of episode 1, so it's good to see her a little bit more involved in this episode. But let's go around and give our general thoughts. I'll start. Like I said, I thought the episode was solid, pretty much up to par with, in my opinion, the first episode. Pretty much consistent so far. Still pretty vague, but kind of things are unraveling slowly. I'm hoping next week is the real turning point. If not next week, definitely episode 4 because we need to kind of get going. In my opinion, since we only have 6 episodes to work with, but I'm happy. I was excited to see the God of Mischief using a little bit of that magic. I love Loki. Like, he's my favorite Marvel villain, or whatever you want to call him now, because we don't. Where does he stand now? Where do you guys think he stands now after the
Oh,
Loki
bro,
show?
he's not even a hero. He's like above a hero right now. Honestly, like,
Really?
yeah, I mean, he's saving like everyone's life, villains and
Isn't
heroes
that funny?
included. Yeah,
Anti-hero vibes,
and
or past
he
that?
past that, bro. He's like God existential level vibe. like, like,
Hey, I'm with it though, because like I said, you guys know I hate rooting for the bad guys, but I have on the DC side, I love the Riddler. On the Marvel side, I love Loki. So the fact that he's kind of coming towards the good side only works in my benefit because I love a good guy story and I love Loki, so it works out. But yeah, I love seeing him use his powers. Um, and just seeing the story develop a little more, and a little bit of action. Finally, a little bit of action near the end of this episode. That was good to see. Cinematography and the VFX are still on point, and the world building. I think there was like this. We'll talk about it later on, but I thought there was this one specific room that I thought was like really cool with the set design. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Thumbs up for me. What about you guys? What did you guys think about the episode?
well, I like the episode. Personally, I think it's been the weakest episode of the show, including season one. That doesn't mean that it was a bad episode, not at all. But I think comparing it to how the other episodes develop and add to the story, comparing it to this one, I think this one felt a little slow, a little vague, and didn't really add much into how the story progressed. And considering that it's a 6 episodes show, I would have expected a little more. But overall, it was a great episode. We pick up right after episode one, with Mobius and Loki still trying to find Sylvie. Uh, as you said, we have a little bit of more action in this episode, which was nice. We got to see more powers of Loki, which I'm always happy to because his powers are so cool looking,
So
like
cool.
visually, and they're like mischievous and
Yeah.
deceptionist, so they're pretty nice to look. Uh, there's a few parts that I really like, especially with the shadows. I know you
That
guys
one.
know what I'm talking about, but
That one.
that
Yeah.
part was amazing. And hey, happy to see Sylvie again. To be honest, I love her presence on the screen because she's so like Loki was in 2012. Stubborn, just his own way or the highway. Like it doesn't matter like what anyone else tells him, advice or anything regarded. But yeah, good episode. Excited to dive a little more into it. And yeah.
Nice. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, for me, I thought episode 2 was like honestly another good episode that kind of keep its momentum going. Where it definitely was finding its direction going forward into the later episodes. Man, honestly, I gotta say this episode was really good because it had like these really good vibes of like investigation type, where the TV are basically like time universe cops, where this opening sequence there kind of gives off that vibe, as well as like the banter with and chemistry with Mobius and Loki, where I think handles it very well, as well as this episode kind of gives like a good more like character exploration a bit, between like how there's an interrogation scene that goes on, and like how there's an interrogation scene that happens in the TV and happens in the TVA, which honestly is like really good moments for like Mobius and Loki and everything. And again, it's really good to see Sophie, especially with like how her life is going. Especially when we talked about in our last episode that what she was going to be doing going forward, and we got to see a good bit of that. But I think also the episode also kind of gives itself really good like a good aftermath from what happened in the last episode, where like most of like the TVA people, like General or Commander Docs from the TVA like council and everything, how what happened to them in this episode, which we're gonna talk about later, also kind of gives like a good emphasis on like where some of these people from the TVA kind of like conflict and like which side they're kind of on, and where they either choose where and how it goes, like with Hunter X5 that Loki and Mobius were trying to capture in the opening. Again, we're gonna talk about that later. But honestly, this episode was like really good and very entertaining, especially with my favorite scene being like the interrogation scene that happens later on in the episode. Honestly, this episode was like really just as good as episode one, but I feel like I definitely had like a lot more fun with this episode because I feel like it had a lot more going for it for me in its aspects for like police interrogation, police like suspect chase, things like that. Because I love like Law and Order crime shows and things like that, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, really, I think a really good episode. I think just as entertaining, if not more, than what last episode was.
Yeah. Nice. um. So yeah. So let's just keep let's dive right in. Right. So the show opens up, and we're in London. We meaning Loki and Mobius, and we're in the past, but on the main timeline,
The
right?
sacred
The
timeline.
sacred timeline. That's something they made sure to specify, and we see Mobius and Loki on a mission to find X5, right? The hunter. We find him. He is a movie star. He's at, I guess, like a red carpet premiere for his new movie. I guess
Brad
that was
Wolf.
yeah, Brad Wolf, right? He was given it was given that vibe, and I thought that whole bit was funny, especially how they first greeted each other, because it was all kind of like friendly, but in reality, like they all kind of knew like don't run, and he's like I'm trying to run, but like we're just you want to drink, like I love that whole little bit. I
Yeah.
thought the banter there was actually pretty. It's like that comedy that's like not forced,
Right.
so I like it because it plays so easily into the current situation. So like I really enjoyed that. But then he starts running, and that's when we start seeing some of this God of Mischief finally come out in this season at least, and we see Loki start using his powers. And so let's touch on that point that you mentioned, Jorge, the shadows thing where they were holding him. That was so sick because when I saw the shadows, I was like, oh shoot, did he just like put on his full like the head thing and like his actual like Loki costume basically,
Yeah.
but then it panned back and he's still in his suit. So it was just the shadows that he made, and I thought that was like sick. And again, that's another thing, like the VFX just looked really really good.
On point.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, they were
So,
definitely on point.
something to mention about that scene specifically is that we have to remember that that power that he uses in that specific moment it's projections, and compare it, for example, to because he has two powers. You have the projections, which are not like real, and then he have the like the real clones he makes of himself, which is what people think that could have happened when he died in Infinity War, that he didn't really die, and that's why we see him then in episode 5 last season,
Mm.
basically old Loki. That's what people say, you survive an Infinity War, so it's important to mention that he has like distinctions between those two powers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. But in the end, we capture him. They capture him, and we take him back to the TVA, and that results into a pretty intense interrogation scene. I felt like. What were you guys' thoughts on the interrogation scene? I know Alex definitely has some thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, for me that whole interrogation scene was that a pretty intense and also kind of a bit of a good character moment where Hunter X5 or Brad Wolf. He's being called Brad. Is he's basically doing like since he's been a TVA agent, he knows like all the interrogation techniques. He kind of just plays against the interrogation, just kind of goes all in psychological warfare on like Loki and Mobius, where he basically just telling Loki off, saying like you're not a hero. Everything you're doing is basically gonna make people like hurt and suffer in the end. Like you're not a hero. Just stop. You're a villain at your core. So just be that and stop playing. And this, I think, this is also a major important growth with like Loki, since again, this is like Loki from like the 2012, and he's had major character growth and change, and from like the last season with everything he's been through, because like with the way that Brad was going in on Loki, especially mentioning like his mother and like how Loki loved his mom and always and how he was sad. Well, after she found out that he died, yeah, usually those are like really big triggers for like Loki, where if it had been Loki like in the early part of season one, or like even like the way he was back in like 2012 Avengers, he literally would have just tried to kill Brad right there
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
spot. But
straight
like,
up.
yeah, but no, Loki actually like composed himself and just kind of breezed through it and just kind of just kept focused on like on the job and like trying to get the information that he needs, and just thought of it like he thought of it. He plays it like it's like some sort of therapy session and
It
like that
it
way
Yeah.
honestly
too.
it honestly kind of reminded me of like when Black Widow was interrogating him in 2012, and he was kind of like being mean to her and saying like really hurtful things to trying to get in her head, but she
Yeah.
got in his head, like maybe it's like kind of like a little bit of reverse psychology there, and then he kind of like did it with X5, which was really cool, you know.
Yeah, he did. That was a really good moment. And so then we get to Mobius, and where X5 is basically just kind of going off on like how Mobius, like you've never really thought about like your other life and like the other timelines. Like, we're all being taken, we've been kidnapped. You should be as upset as everybody else is. Like, this whole TVA thing, it's not real. Your name isn't even real. But then it's like everything here is fake. You're not a real man and things like that. And then Mobius, like he just goes off on him, just slaps him, talking, just trying to get aggressive with him. Where like in last season, he would have kept all cool and composed and everything, all cool and composed, trying to get the information, because like he's been like known to be like the best TVA agent guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But then you see like a whole switch with them. So like it clearly shows that this whole revelation from last season is affecting him. It really is affecting him in a
Oh, for
way.
sure.
Like he's just questioning like everything, but then he just still kind of goes forward trying to do his job, but there's still something going on in the surface. So I honestly, the whole interrogation scene was again very good character moments to kind of see like the shift and change between these two partners, Mobius and Loki, which I honestly think was like brilliant. Was like it's brilliantly done. Like something that you see as Jorge said in like Avengers 2012 between like Loki and Black Widow. But also like these kind of like reverse police interrogation scenes like movies where you got this one person interrogation in a cage, and he's just trying to like get under the skin of his like his captors, or trying to find their weaknesses and trying to turn against him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I totally agree with you. It's definitely one of the highlights of the episode, of course, and I really I really thoroughly enjoyed the ending bit of it, really, where it was past interrogation, really leaning towards torture, uh, from Loki's end. That whole bit I thought was really cool because you could see that. I don't know if maybe evil is too harsh of a word, but for lack of a better word, that evil is still inside Loki, but he's actively choosing not to act on it
Or he's
and
using
not to
it
like.
for a right purpose this time. Yeah.
But no, because I feel like the real evil in him would have done way worse. Like I
Yeah.
feel like this is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
within the confines of like what's acceptable in this situation,
Okay.
in my
Okay.
opinion.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I'm saying like he is like actively choosing to be reserved, but you could
Okay.
tell it's like still in him. Does that make sense? I feel like I could kind of get that vibe from him. Like if he wanted to, he would.
Yeah.
Is
If
what I'm trying to
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. Of course. Especially
Yeah.
especially understanding that again, like this is not our normal Loki. This is like 2012 Loki that just like went through season one,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's basically all his experience with in terms of like himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think in this episode, definitely is the one that has showcased his most dark side since he arrived at the TVA, pretty much. I mean, obviously, like the first episode, he was still like, I'm Loki, god of mischief and stuff. He was still talking
Yeah.
like as Guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that little arrogant, cocky bit of his and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And now definitely like in this episode, he did use a lot of like dark elements related to his powers and magic and stuff. But yeah, I don't really think he's like sh- trying to be bad again or whatever. And I know that's not what you mean, but I think at this point he's too worried about the sake of existence that he's willing to use everything he has in his book to like fix it pretty much. So
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. For sure. Because again, he's like the one person who has like seen it all and like seen the real
exactly.
existential crisis that they were in, and no one is trying to like. No one's like
No one's
sharing that
as panicking
knowledge.
as him. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
he's freaking out. No one is sharing the same experience as him. Like Mobius
Yeah,
is with him and Mobius is going to ride with him, but he is the only one that truly knows the lengths of this, and he's just kind of like he's like in the deep end of the pool, not knowing how to swim, and he's like the only person in the pool. Like that's just
basically,
like
yeah.
it's just kind of what it feels like, you know?
basically, yeah,
Yeah, he's like, I'm drowning. Can someone please help me?
yeah,
um, but yeah, but we get the information, finally, and we act on that. We let's go
Let's go
find
find
Sylvie.
Sylvie. Yes, sir.
Right? Yeah.
And we do. And where is she at? Broxton, Oklahoma. And where is she working? At a McDonald's.
McDonald's,
McDonald's.
Yep.
man,
Yep. But important to note, in a branch timeline.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not the same sacred timeline, which was where Mobius and Loki found X5 when we first started the episode. But yeah, so a branch timeline: Braxton, Oklahoma, at a McDonald's. Sylvie's working, which was just like so weird to see. To be honest, like you have the
So
power.
casual, it's like, oh, let's
Yeah.
kill he who remains, and then let's go to McDonald's. Why not?
No, yeah, that was just funny, and it's like she's like a human. Is she a human?
Yeah.
She's
Well,
okay.
she's his guardian. Really, she's not here.
Okay, well, she's a being that can kill like literally every single person at McDonald's, but she's just chilling. Like that's what I thought was just so funny. Anyways, that tension when our Loki,
Yeah.
walks in the McDonald's and they first make eye contact. Wow,
Yeah, that was amazing.
palpable.
Like the acting there was so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they literally like revive everything that they've been through in season one without saying a single word, just by looks.
right.
Like
It's all in the eyes. It's all in the eyes.
it's
And I
on
love
the
that.
eyes. The
Yeah,
eyes don't lie, baby.
and even X5 called it out. He was like, "There's so much tension,"
Oh yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
love. Yeah, I
That was
love
so
that.
funny. That was so naturally funny when he said
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that's another. They're doing a great job with adding just like not forcing the comedy, but it being there, here and there,
that. Yeah, yeah,
and not oversaturated either, which is good because that's another problem Marvel tends to have.
yeah.
Forced comedy and oversaturated because they just do so much of it. But anyways, yeah, and I mean, really, you could just tell so much by just them having those looks on their faces and the way Loki, again, our Loki was like slowly walking up to her because he was like he was well aware that he is the last person she desires to see right now,
Yeah.
and so he's like kind of walking on like kind of on thin ice, kind of like
Cautious.
yeah, very cautious, So yeah, and then they go outside, have a conversation, and Jorge, like you said, she's hard headed. Like I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I'm working. I'm happy. I'm content. Well, again, going back to our previous point, Loki's literally freaking out
Yeah.
because the world is literally ending. It's crazy. Thoughts, guys, on their conversation, on their meetup. Just Sylvie is for the first time now we're gonna interact with her. What were you guys' thoughts in this scene, in this moment?
Honestly, I feel bad for Loki at this point. Like seeing this scene in particular, the tension and the history behind them both, I just felt bad for Loki. I feel like he was thinking about the kiss and how she pushed him away, uh, and that's all I could think about at that moment. You know, not even like what happened before that, just the kiss and the push. I was heartbroken by with Loki. I was like, damn, like this is like hard for him, and then having to come to her to explain to her that they have to like redo what they did and fix the situation. It's honestly hard. Knowing how she is as well, as you said, you know, she's a stubborn person. You know, she's been through a lot in her existence, so she's not gonna give up her decision that easy. You know, so I mean, I love the conversation they have. Loki's still trying to explain to her that what they did is causing like crazy consequences to the existence of reality, not just for them but for all the branches, in the timeline. And you know that they basically have to do something about it, you know, because they are the ones responsible for it at this point. And yeah, I mean, great interaction. Happy to have Sylvie back, and it's very interesting that the directors up to showed us that scene in the first episode where Sylvie's in the elevator coming out in the future, because her attitude and her manner there was more like, "Oh, I find you! Like I finally found you!" You know, like happy to find Loki, happy to be there, like relief. Whereas here, she's like, "I don't care if that was me in the future. That's not me. Like I'm not like that. I don't care about like whatever you're doing right now." So, pretty interesting, and excited to see more of Sylvia at this point.
Right. Yep. Alex.
Yeah, I agree with Jorge. He basically sums that up perfectly. But I think I can add that you can definitely still feel like there's kind of tension in there where, again, Loki is still thinking about the fact that, she had this choice and he tried to reason with her even before she kicked him out and back to, or even then before she kicked him out back to the TVA, before she killed he who remains. And there's still a bit of that in there where essentially she basically is still on the thought where Loki tried to stop her from completing her one mission in life and things have finally fallen into place, and she's finally happy and free, and like everyone has like free will, so like the chance that like the TA is like finally destroyed, but she really doesn't understand the full ramification of her actions, which Loki is trying to fully explain, but she doesn't want to hear it because I think she's just trying to like just keep to her own happiness and everything for her mission's finally done, and she can just like let all that go and let things fall into place. But she's just being very stubborn about it because she refused to listen to Loki for like the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think she finally realized that the mistake she did, because once Loki explained to her that all the branches were gonna be pruned, uh, like she kind of like understood that, okay, this is something like way bigger than me and things are really going bad. And yeah, I mean, they basically return to the TVA where they indeed find out that the military branch of the TVA is about to prune, or it's pruning like as much branches as possible, uh, which is good and it's bad because we understand that they're killing billions of people, but at the same time, without that action, the TVA is falling apart. The temporal loom is overcharging, and then Ouroboros can fix the temporal loom, and save everyone eventually.
Yeah, but it makes
Yeah.
you wonder. Yeah, because it makes you wonder. The fact this also adds to what I was saying earlier, where like we had like one faction of the TVA that's still working to try and try and fix things with this whole like temporal loom getting overloaded. But then we have like Docs and X5, before he chose to like just leave behind and go to like the main timeline to start his own life as an actor, where mostly like Docs and mostly like her loyalists of the TVA, like you said, the militaristic, basically just choose to go like full extreme and just like to like handle all this, just to branch every single new timeline to create this only still the one existing timeline, which is pretty much like an overreaction and just goes to show they're going way too far to the extreme where it doesn't matter how many people they're going to sacrifice and kill as long as one existing timeline remains, which is honestly
Exactly.
which is honestly a pretty scary thought. And honestly, what I do love about this episode is like how it kind of gets to the point of that, but it doesn't feel like it's been overstuffed, but it feels like just right where they're able to handle this threat cleanly. But there might be some remnants or just anything that can go forward as we find out with OB how like the container door to the temporal loom itself is locked, and the only way for OB to actually like be able to unlock it and fix the problem with the weapon that he made to try and fix it is to actually try and find the temporal aura of the person who created it, i.e.
Mm-hmm.
he who remained, or like
Mm-hmm.
one of the many Kang variants out there.
Yeah.
Right. Which I thought was a very intriguing thing to introduce in this episode,
Yeah.
to be honest, because it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if that's what you need, does that mean Loki's about to go and get that? Find
Oh
that.
yeah. I think that's where the show is gonna go. I think we're gonna like in the next episode, so we're gonna travel to the past, trying to find He Who Remains, or the first version of He Who Remains, to try and see if he can, give us a temporal loon to fix the TVA at this point.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
even more with that, because like Loki mentioned in the same episode that we saw in episode 1, was how like when he went to the past, he heard a recording between He Who Remains and Judge Renslayer, where basically she had been working with He Who Remains, but I think also it was before the time where he basically like reset her memories, like he did with everybody at the TVA. So, and then we find out in this same episode at the end, we don't we basically get like a location from her TemPad that she had used when she had
Correct.
gotten out of the TVA from the season finale of the first season. So basically, the only link that they have to like in some way to get close and maybe to find another version of He Who Remains is to locate her, or to find like the rogue AI Miss Minutes, who had basically just kind of left and had been on the side of He Who Remains for like the whole entire time. So we either find Renslayer and hopefully Miss Minutes, or one way or some way or another. Either way, it's going to lead us to something that in hopes of that, which is in hopes to find a way to fix this whole temporal loom problem for good throughout this whole journey.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. So some things were definitely sprinkled in this episode that will lead us towards, you know, you just, those were like 3 different roads you just kind of created there, Alex, which all seem like pretty much so far as the information we're given, the only 3 roads they could go down. So I'm excited for it. I am excited to see He Who Remains in this season. I
Me too.
honestly cannot wait. But I want to add, when they go and try to stop Docs and the other hunters from pruning the like more branches and timelines, there was some more action there, right? And I loved that little kind of team up again between Loki and Salvi. To be honest, so I just wanted to add that because I thought that was cool, and I thought how she was like, "Don't overthink it," because
Yeah.
she wants to make sure, like, she's like, "I'm not getting involved. Just remember that,"
Yeah, just kind of create a boundary setting there. That was a
Definitely
nice little
boundaries.
nod there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
think
I mean, at the end of the episode, she again she walks away from Loki.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, she's back at Oklahoma, right?
yeah,
After she sees, even though she is at the TVA, seeing billions of people die and seeing the current status of the TVA and really time itself,
reality and time itself. Yeah.
right? She's like, well, if it's still there, I'm gonna go back to my McDonald's now.
yeah.
And so there she is, and that's where the episode ends. She's chilling on her truck in Braxton, Oklahoma, in front of her McDonald's, and she's being very hard-headed right now. She's
Oh
being
yeah.
very hard-headed right now, but we will see. She's gonna come around. I hope.
She has honestly.
No,
She
she
has.
will.
To,
She
she
will.
definitely has to. Because
Yeah.
again, I think I think she probably is gonna get back with him as forming a team, and like either the next episode or like halfway in there. And then as series goes along, she's probably gonna find out the full ramifications of her actions, and just she'll probably have like some regret because like part of the reason all this is happening is literally because she chose not to listen and just killed He Who Remains, because like that was her one goal in life.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, it's shaping up to be pretty interesting. We just kind of gotta see once again, like, excuse me, once again, like this season has been like pretty vague so far. So we just gotta wait and see. Because again, I mean, we're theorizing here, but they could really take it a completely different direction that we haven't even
Anywhere.
seen. Yeah, just really
Yeah.
anywhere. So I'm excited. I really am.
Yep.
Any more thoughts, you guys?
Well, I have one other thought, and this has got like a fun little thing, which it probably wasn't done on purpose, but you know how like with the opening where he has like Loki and Mobius like all in like their suits and stuff like that.
Uh huh.
I almost kind of think as a kind of like a good little nod to how like fans of like Tom Hiddleston they have basically tried to fan cast him as like the next James Bond and stuff like that. And I think just seeing that is kind of like a little something where like he could definitely look like a very good James Bond, all ducked out in his tux. And I love the cam work that they were doing when Loki was trying to chase Brad all the way through the alleyway and stuff like that. That was some really good cam work. That kind of felt like a nice little chase scene of like of like Tom of Tom of Tom James Bond like chasing after somebody, you know?
Yeah. I didn't put those two things together when it was happening, but now that you mention it, I agree. But I didn't know that was a fan casting theory or desire for him to be James Bond, but
Oh
I like
yeah.
it. I'd see it. I would like it for sure.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
Um but yeah. Um Anybody else? That's it. All right. Cool. Well, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been our Loki season 2, episode 2 review. General consensus is thumbs up from all of us, I think. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, please hit that thumbs up down there because it really does help us out. And if you like videos like this one, we try to upload once a week, sometimes multiple times a week. Movies, TV shows, all of it. We review it. We talk about it. Come and join us. Hit the subscribe button. Have you seen Loki? Have you seen this episode? Have you started this season yet? Whatever it is, Loki season 2, we want to talk about it. So please talk to us in the comments. Let's get engaged. But with that being said, we'll see you guys next week. Yep. Peace out.
Peace.